Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to have a very special guest here with me today. Her name is Jessica Kent. I'm so happy because one of your subscribers came over to my channel and was like, have you ever heard of Jessica? You need to go collab. And I was like, oh, okay. First collab ever. So I'm really, really, really excited.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Do you want to give a background on who you are, why you started your channel? Anything you want to tell?
Yeah, sure. So what's up, you guys? Thank you so much, girl, for having me on. My name is Jessica, and for those of you that don't know, I started a prison channel. And the funny thing is I didn't know it was going to end up being a prison channel. It kind of just grew and developed into its own thing, which is awesome. I have 7 years sober from heroin, meth, and pills. I've also been to prison a couple of times. So that's crazy when I say it out loud. And I have to actually realize, dang, girl, that's crazy. But
it's amazing.
I started my channel.
Sorry to cut you off. Yep.
No, that's totally fine. I started my channel just to help people and just to get my story out and maybe help one addict. That's all I want to do. You know, I know there's so many people struggling right now, and we have an epidemic. We have a crisis in this country. And if one person can be helped from my story, then it's totally worth it.
Oh, you're amazing. Thank you so much. And we have actually a lot of members on my channel who are either addicts themselves in recovery or loving an addict. So
Right.
I'm sure that they'll be over to you, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of questions in your comment section. So from the perspective of somebody who's been on the inside, because most of my subscribers support somebody who's inside, how would you suggest that we nurture our relationships, keep them thriving?
That's tough. First of all, I was a prison girlfriend before I was an inmate.
Okay.
So I've kind of dealt with it a little bit. And I think the first piece of advice would be don't let them control you, because I feel like when you're an inmate, it's all about me. I'm in prison, take care of me, do this for me, run errands for me. And I think inmates can make it all about themselves when in reality, prison isn't always behind bars. You're going through a prison of your own, and that is hell on earth to love someone in prison. So just my first piece of advice would be to do what's right for you. Do what's best for you and your mental space, because it's draining, it's difficult, it's financially draining. I mean, there's so many things that I could say about it, but do what's best for you and don't feel like you have to jump every time the phone rings. I remember living my life in between phone calls and letters, and as much as I loved my now ex-boyfriend, I just had to put the phone down sometimes and have a little bit of me time and walk away and just, if we're fighting, take the day off. You don't have to constantly be picking up the phone. But that can be stressful for an inmate. So do what's best. Do what you think is right for you always.
I love that advice. So a question that comes out of that is this. I have a lot of girls who are petrified not to answer the phone, and they'll walk around with it attached to their hip because they're like, he's going to leave me. Oh my God. And it's that whole control thing. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Where's he going to go, girl? You put that phone down.
Thank you.
Yeah, you put that phone down and you do what's right for you. And I was that person too. I would hate fighting with him so much that I would be the same way. I would run out of rooms with my family, leave a dinner to talk on the phone. Mm-hmm. I'd join my car, talk on the phone, leave a mall, hanging out with my friends at the mall. I would leave to talk to him. And that was just so horrible. It controlled and dictated my life. And I cared very little about me. And I put all of my eggs in that basket. And I cared way more about him than I did myself. And at the end of the day, that's why my addiction was so bad. That's why my life is a mess, because I didn't love me first. So that is first and foremost, what I can always say is you put that phone down, girl. You live your life a little bit.
Yep. And I think the longer we go through this, the easier it gets. In the beginning, it's a little bit more difficult. You have to figure out the first of everything, the first holiday, the first birthday. So I think as time progresses, it gets a little easier. So as far as we've been having a lot of issues lately, especially with our members who we call them MWI, they met their loved one while they were already incarcerated.
Okay.
Who are being used. Mm-hmm. And it's that whole game, the manipulation, and they're making excuses for him or her. What do you think about that as somebody who's been on the inside?
I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Even when I'm not in prison anymore, right? But I still see it all the time. I have people on my channel also, they met their loved one in prison. And there are amazing examples of you finding the person of your dreams behind bars. I've just never seen that. Personally, I haven't, because when he or she gets out of prison, they have a lot more options and they leave. And I've seen people just be devastated, draining their bank accounts trying to help an inmate and writing tons of letters. And like I said, that's your whole life. That becomes your new normal. And I think we forget to live our own lives. So just go into it carefully, go into it slowly, and don't send tons of money. Don't hurt yourself to help them, you know?
That's great advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What about somebody that's dealing with an addict and they think that he potentially is using on the inside? What are some warning signs that she should look out for or he should look out for?
Yeah, that's tough. So I think the first thing I will tell anyone this, whether you love someone on the inside or not, is an addict happy with you? Because if an addict is happy with you, you're probably enabling them and you're probably helping them get drugs or whatever. If they're pissed off at you, you're probably trying to save their life. So just the warning signs in prison, if they call you and they're like, we had a really bad situation, I need help right now, and they're like really persistent with needing something right then, they probably owe the dope man, okay? They probably lost money in a gambling game. They probably got drugs. Like if they sound too, I don't even know how to put it, too persistent, too like, this is a time-sensitive matter. This isn't just I need some soups on my commissary account. This is I'm in trouble because I have a debt. Things like that. You know, if you go to visit them and you see little changes in behavior, or you know, I know a lot of inmates are getting Suboxone right now. If they're nodding out in the visit, I mean, just pay attention. You know, pay attention to how they change, and that is just so hard. You know, you think like, how are they getting this? They're in prison. But guys, like, you really have to be on the lookout for that. I know tons of people that are addicts in prison struggling right now. They cannot get sober. So that is like the hardest thing ever, because you're not there. You can't see them. You can't just call them when you want to. You can't check in with them when you want to. I mean, that's just so emotionally draining. And my heart goes out to anyone struggling with that.
Yeah, thanks. And sometimes I think we know as women, we have that intuition, we know, but we ignore it. So I always tell everyone, if you have to ask me, then something's going on. You kind of know. So start uncovering it, start thinking about it.
Yeah, don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt that gut instinct, because it's never wrong. Women are so smart. We are fierce, you guys. You know when something's off.
Yeah, we just doubt ourselves, or we want to create something that's not really there. We want to see the potential of people. And sadly, if they're not living up to that potential, it's time for us to kind of reevaluate.
That is so true. I just want to add to that. You can't fall in love with someone's potential. Yeah. And I say that from experience. I have fallen in love with a man because he had great potential and he's in prison for the 10th time. So just follow through with that. You know, don't fall in love with someone because of what they can be. Fall in love with them for what they're showing you. You know, are they really dedicated to changing their life? Are they really in it for you? Or do they love you? You know, or are they using you? You know, you have to be honest with yourself. And sometimes that's uncomfortable and painful. We don't want to admit it to ourselves, but you just have to be honest with yourself first before you can, you know, be in a happy relationship.
Yeah. Yep. And sometimes it takes more strength to walk away, but you have to love yourself enough to do it. And I always say this too. Sometimes they need to be left alone to hit their rock bottom, and you never know if they'll come back around to you. So you're right. You have to love yourself first. So
and let it go. Whew, that is so hard.
Yeah, but there's so much else out there.
It's true. So, just leave. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because that's the thing. Everybody has this, or a lot of prison life communities that I've seen. I saw a lot of groups on Facebook and all this stuff before I started, because when I saw them, I was like, you know, they're kind of glamorizing this whole criminal life and the whole street lifestyle, and I think we could do better than this. And a lot of them were that hold them down no matter what, ride or die mentality. And I'm like, there's no ride or die with abuse. It's just silly.
Yes. You know, I can relate so much to that, because I wanted to be there for my ex through everything. He even put me in jail. He's stolen from me, cheated on me, and I still was like, well, love hurts. Love is supposed to hurt.
Exactly.
Like, it's not. And I'm so blessed now to not only be free of my ex, but I found an amazing man, you guys. We've been together for 5 years. We have 2 beautiful kids. And I never would have met my now boyfriend of 5 years if I hadn't got rid of the dead weight. You know, that ex was dragging me down, and I never would have lived to be my best self if he was still in my life. There's no way in hell I would have sobriety and my babies and this amazing man. So you never know if leaving him is the best thing you can ever do.
That's amazing. And when you talk about all of that, you light up, just like everybody should when they talk about the person they love and the life that they're loving. that they're
That's
living.
like a red flag. I used to talk about my ex and I'm like, I know. Like that was my thing.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
dude, okay, I know he's a scumbag, but he's my scumbag, whatever.
Right, exactly. Yep. So talk to me about the time that you're preparing for release, because we have a lot of people last 6 to 12 months, they notice that things start to get a little funky and there's a lot of drama and a lot of emotion involved.
Okay, for me personally, I was really anxious and scared. And if you guys don't know my story, I was pregnant in prison and my daughter was actually born in prison. So I was leaving prison with nothing. I had to go to a halfway house. And during that time, my ex and I actually were writing back and forth and whatever. So I was going out into the world with all these fears. I was dead broke, going into a halfway house in a state where I had no one. My daughter was in DHS custody, and I was just really anxious and scared. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And inmates care about food. So when I say I couldn't eat, like, it was for real, you guys. I was just extremely stressed out. And I remember like walking out of the prison and just thinking, now what? Like, now what the hell am I going to do? Because really prison was like a timeout for me. That was like a vacation. Now I have to get to work and build a life. And it's extremely stressful. But I needed to do that on my own. I needed to be by myself, work to get my daughter out of DHS custody, and get a place, get a job, get a car, do all those things on my own. And I feel like if I had someone helping me through that, I wouldn't be my best self. I wouldn't have realized how strong I really am. So sometimes leaving them is the best thing you can do for them.
That's amazing.
I don't know if I answered that question.
I think you did. I think you did. What about when you first got out, though? What about getting a job and reestablishing your life?
Oh my gosh. So it's so hard. I had to work 2 jobs, but I was so blessed to have those 2 jobs. The state that I did my last bid in was Arkansas, and they didn't even give me an ID. So I had to get an ID, but I didn't have a birth certificate or a social security card to get an ID, and you need an ID to get a job. So I feel like I just had this mountain to overcome. So, I finally started checking things off my list, and I got a job, and then I got a second job, and then I got a car, and it very slowly came together, and it only came together through grit, discipline, and tenacity. I just did not give up, and there was nothing stopping me. So my first year out was really tough. I was struggling, I was starving, but I was sober, I was alive, and I was fighting through. So just for me, I worked at a telemarketing job, and I worked at a vapor store. The telemarketing job was really amazing because I could go in there late because we'd be calling places on the West Coast and stuff. So I could fill in my hours. I'd work 8 hours at the vapor store, 8 hours at the 8 hours at the telemarketing place. And then I'd go to NA meetings in my spare time, and I would just fill every second. So I wasn't focused on going back to my old life, the old people, none of it. I was just like, I had blinders on. Like, I am going to build something. I don't care if I'm broke and struggling forever. I'm going to do this for my kid. And lo and behold, 5 years later, I don't have to eat ramen noodles. I eat them by choice.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's really hard. I actually didn't even see my family for, I want to say 4 years. I'm from New York, so I was in Arkansas, and now I'm in Chicago, kind of all over the place. But I didn't see my family for a long time because I had to be alone. I had to get my life together, 1,300 miles away from my home. And then once I was steady and stable and okay in sobriety and I had custody of my daughter, then I went home and visited. And I think that's where inmates make mistakes. They try to take on more than they can handle at first. Like, oh, I'm just going to go see my homie. I'm just going to have 1 beer. And before you know it, 1 bad decision turns into 20 bad decisions and you're going back to prison. So those little things at first matter so much.
Makes so much sense. I love that. Golden nuggets. So how can we best support, from your perspective, our loved ones on the inside?
Mail call is like the most important time of the day, and it could either make or break you for that day. You could be having a decent day and then not get a letter and your whole mood will change because you feel alone. And I had no one. I never got mail. We would even have cops like make everyone line up for mail, and it's like, bro, I know I'm not getting mail. Like, why are you making me stand here? But they would do that just to mess with you. And then other inmates would be like, oh, no mail, shocker. And they'd like mess with you even further. So letters just make you feel connected to the outside world. They make you feel like someone gives a shit when you're just alone. And I mean, prison's like the worst thing ever. So if you're not sending money, which I don't recommend you send much, the inmates do need food. Don't like drain your bank account, but send letters, you guys, letters and pictures. We want to see you and babies and, you know, things from the outside so desperately. So pictures and mail, number one thing you could possibly do. And it's really cheap. So I highly recommend pictures.
Awesome. Now I'm sitting here like shrinking in my chair because I haven't sent mail in a really long time. We have core links. We have email. But
Yeah,
I'm going to go write a letter and print some pictures after this, I think.
well, if you do core links, I know that your husband is checking the kiosk all the time for those emails. So that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. No, he's not neglected. I just feel a little.
Yeah, I love that you help people from the outside because it's just a different perspective that I can't give. I can give kind of because I was a prison girlfriend, but that was a decade ago. You know, that was a really long time ago. And I couldn't go see my boyfriend because I was either on the run or on parole. So they won't let you go in there depending on the facility. Like county jails didn't care, but prisons do care. So I can't really give that perspective. So I love that you're trying to help women that have a loved one on the inside. And I'm not always saying like dump him. So if you guys are watching this, like I'm not always going to be like, just leave him. That's not what I meant. Just be careful. You know, always go into it with an open mind and be willing to see the things you don't want to see. You know, I think what we said earlier about we want to make our own narrative. We want to believe that this person cares about us and loves us, but sometimes it's really all about them. And don't let them control your life because it can so easily become your normal where you're just constantly on that phone, constantly fighting, and it just gets so draining. So live your life first. I just had to re-say that because when I found that, I just found so much strength in myself when I walked away and I realized like, I don't need this person. This person is not what's best for me. I'm what's best for me. I need to love myself first. So I just can't even stress that enough. I had to say it one more time before we leave.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying too, because I feel jaded sometimes at this point. Even yesterday, Adam, my husband, and I did a call where we recorded it and he answered one of the subscribers' questions and he was all pro inmate. And I'm like, no, maybe it's time for her to leave. And I felt the same way you're saying, like, oh, maybe it's time for me to take some steps back. But I've just seen so many people burnt, putting up with abuse. And it's just, I think that there are millions of wonderful relationships out there, but you just have to go in eyes wide open. Especially
Yeah, absolutely.
him when he's already in there because you don't have that background with him.
Right. And you will have your good days and your bad days. Some days you're like, oh, he's the best thing ever. The next day, because you're human, you're like, don't call me ever again. We're human beings. Like you're going to go through those roller coasters. Right. It's a really stressful thing to have to hold on and build and nurture a relationship from behind prison walls. It's so stressful. So expect those bad days. And if you do, like if you're married to this person, you love this person, whatever, if you do want to fight it out, just hang on because those good days are few and far between. You're going to have a lot more bad days probably because visiting is stressful and prison calls, hang up. If he's in the feds, right? You do core links. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So 15-minute phone calls, and that's stressful. Like, what can you talk about in 15 minutes? Right. I know you're in Jersey. We can talk fast, but like 15 minutes, it's not cool. So it's stressful. You're probably going to have more bad days than good days.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. I don't want to keep you, but before we go, tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay, so it's just my name. There's nothing fancy over on my channel. It's just Jessica Kent. And I can drop a comment down below, or you can put my stuff in the description box below. We talk about all kinds of things on my channel. Addiction, prison, I tell funny stories, crazy stories, you know, so my channel is a little diverse and all over the place, but it's a good place to hang out.
Awesome. I'm sure you'll be getting a lot more love over there.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, girl, and I can't wait to have you on my channel.
Yes, thank you. We'll see you again soon.
Bye, you guys.